Member Jonathan Young.
Thank you, sir. Well, I do think that it is important to acknowledge, as the previous speaker has said, 165 Fs, that's equivalent full-time jobs, is what Price Waterhouse estimated that completely removing this temporary ban would have that sort of effect. And we know, sir, through the committee that 57% of theatres in the country have converted to digital format, and principally all of those are in the major metropolitan areas. So little towns like Huntly probably haven't converted yet, and little towns like Hara, where I was born, probably haven't converted yet. And the reason why that is, sir, is because it costs $100,000 to convert from a 35mm format to a digital format, and that's what the industry told us. And the reason why the previous Labor government in 2003 instituted this act was to give time for that transition to take place, knowing that it's going to cost us a considerable amount of money. And of course in 2008 they renewed that for another 5 years through an SOP when they were considering a copyright bill. Sir, the pending lapse of the temporary ban on the 31st of October 2013 is a trigger to assess whether the original rationale for the ban justifies its continuation. And it's been an interesting process through the committee as we have looked at all the pros and cons of what this temporary ban has provided. One of the things, of course, we saw arguably that if the ban wasn't extended, that those revenue decreases because of the transition and then the transition cost of $100,000 per theatre would be too large an expense to make digital conversion viable, and simply put, many theatres out of business, which is where that 165 equivalent full-time job losses would occur. So for small town in New Zealand, even for small city in New Zealand, the closure of these theatres would see that estimated 165 job losses, and added to that, it would also see the closure of a significant number of theatres which are places of entertainment and of social value for those small towns and cities. So it was quite a complex discussion looking at all of these things. I felt through the discussion of the committee and hearing the different submitters that we could see validation in extending the temporary ban. Of course, not for 5 years, only for 3. Not for 9 months, but for 5. So certainly a reduction. And the report of the committee to the industry was to say that there is a change, an obvious change in digital technology in the way that people are accessing movies. So our words to the industry was make this 3-year period, this window that you've been given, the window that you certainly choose to take advantage of this period of time to do the transition and to complete it. I also acknowledge the argument, sir, put forward by the distribution and exhibition industry for the extension of this temporary ban to ensure that the general public have access to a wider variety of movies, particularly family movies, at times when they want to see them. So, in fact, some said they desired the ban to actually be permanent and not temporary. However, the bill did not present that option, and nor was there an appetite in the committee to do that. Essentially, the ban of parallel importation of films until 5 months after the release date, most often in the US of A, is principally focused on family films. To explain, this week, Smurf 2 will be launched in New Zealand. One could be forgiven to think that this is talking about the cartoon of the Labour Party and that Smurf 2 is code name for its intrepid leader, David 2. I can imagine his chief of staff calling DPS Smurf 2 is on the way. Now, the New Zealand audience have been enthralled by watching Smurf 1 and for the last little while, and we are ready for the sequel, Smurf 2, released in a theatre near you. But I think New Zealand is looking forward to seeing Smurf 3. David, and David. However, coming back to Smurf 2, it was released on the 31st of July in the US of A, which is in the middle of their summer holidays, but for us on this side of the world in the different hemisphere, 31st of July was the first week of term 3. So while it's great to release it over there, here it doesn't work because it's just not the right time. As a parent, I'm not going to be sending my kid and other parents, their children, out to the movies in the first week of term 3. It's settling down to schoolwork, isn't it? And this is the problem, sir, that the industry are identifying, is that you just can't do global release dates. Not for family movies. They're best to be released in the school holiday time. And this is what this bill is all about. It's actually about staggering the release dates so they work for the population according to the season of their holidays. So the decision of the committee, sir, was to support the bill in that we have this extension of a temporary ban, not for 5 years but for 3, not for 9 months but for 5. And we believe, sir, that that's the right window, and we want to see the industry transition and see entertainment available for New Zealanders. Thank you.
I call the honourable member Clear Curran.
Thank you, Mr.